Hello everyone. With the new mid-set expansion, some of my guides are starting to get outdated with the new meta. In this video, I go over what has changed about the guides. First, we go over the early game guide, then the Brawler Blaster guide, and then finish off with the Cybernetics guide. The early game guide is my first video ever. The vast majority of the information is still relevant, although some small things have changed. Here I go over the early game synergies that are good. I want to add 3 Star Guardians, 2 Vanguards, 2 Brawlers, and 2 Battlecast to this list. Here are the early game units that are good. I want to add TF, Ziggs, Ahri, and Zed to this list. And I want to point out that Lucian is not good unless he has Cyber and Blaster buff. Shen is not played in any of the current meta comps, so I tend to avoid him, although he's still a good unit. Ziggs and Zoe no longer suck, although Zoe is only good with 3 Star Guardians. Items that I always make in the early game are Bramble Vest, Ionic Spark, Last Whisper, Red Buff if I have Blasters, Redemption, Frozen Heart, Warmogs, Zephyr, and Thieves Clubs. If you like playing comps that use Jinx, Vayne, and Jhin, you need to be careful using up Swords and Gloves for other items, as all of those champions really want Last Whisper, Deathblade, IE, Giant Slayers, etc. Same thing if you like playing comps like Astro Snipers, 6-Arc Riven, and Vanguard Mystics. You need to be careful using up tiers, as Teemo, Cassiopeia, and Victor all want blue buff on them. Red buff is not an essential item anymore, but is still fantastic in the early game, if you put it on a blaster. IE is still okay to slam, but if you can't finish off the Last Whisper, you will struggle against Vanguards. General item carriers for 80 items in the early game are the ones on screen plus Zed, Kog'Maw, and Lucian. AP item carriers are the ones on screen plus Graves. Brawler Blaster has changed a lot. The new build looks like this, where you're on Jinx plus Ezreal and the 4 Brawlers. The last 2 units you put in can be anything. The 3 most common ones are GP6 for Demo, Soraka Lulu for Mystics, or Infiltrators where you put in Zed plus either Echo or Fizz. At level 9, you're pretty much always at an ASOL for another Rebel. At this point, you can also look to do a 6 Rebels pivot, as that comp is stronger in the late game than Brawler Blaster. The reason why we don't run 4 Blasters anymore is because Misfortune got removed. Lucian, Graves, and Kog'Maw are just not good enough units to carry, so we would much rather put in units that allow Jinx to carry harder. The core items for this comp is Last Whisper. Red buff has gotten nerfed twice since the original Brawler Blaster guide, so it's no longer essential. It's just a good item on Jinx now. After you have made Last Whisper, you can add Deathblade, Hurricane, IE, Giant Slayer, Red buff, or RFC. You don't really need a defensive item on Jinx, as you will pretty much always be running 3 Rebels, but GA, Trapclaw, and QSS are still great on her. Best in-slots items for Jinx is Last Whisper, Deathblade, and Hurricane. After you made Jinx items, you make support items, meaning tank and utility items. Tank items want to go on Gnar or Vi. Utility items can go on units you can move around a lot. In the original video, I talk about how this comp gets outscaled, and if you want to win you need Jinx 3. That is still somewhat true, but after Asol got reworked, he is a great unit to put in at level 9. As mentioned earlier, you can also transition into 6 Rebels late game. If you want to go for Jinx 3, you need to be uncontested still. But in the current meta, Jinx is too strong, so there are multiple people running her every single game. Cybernetics got Vayne added to the roster, and she's now your main carry. The level 8 build looks like this. You can't run KLMF for Cassidy and Xayah, as they got removed. Since Vayne is your main carry, we don't really need Blade Master buff anymore. We also don't choose to run Lucian, as he doesn't give us any frontline, and he barely gives us any damage. Irelia and Echo are your backup carries, and at level 9 you add in either Thresh or Fizz. Here is the updated Thresh pull tier list. Again, this is a general tier list, so some champions are better versus different type of comps. Vayne wants similar items as Irelia. Last Whisper is a core item for her. The next 2 items are Giant Slayer, IE, Deathblade, Hurricane, or a Blade Master's Bat. Vayne doesn't need a defensive item on her, as her ability is all the defense she ever needs. The best item combos for Vayne is either Last Whisper, IE, and Giant Slayer, or Last Whisper, Deathblade, and Hurricane. The rest of the itemization is the same, although Irelia usually just ends up getting a component or a filler item instead. Don't make Celestial Spat, as you can rarely fit it in at level 9. The new carousel priority is Sword, Glove, Bow, then Chain Vest. In the early game, a lot of the same things I talk about in the video still apply. Red buff is not a core item for Cybers anymore, but it is still very good on Lucian in the early and mid game. Put red buff on Echo in the late game, as his ult procs red buff on everyone he attacks. Lucian is still the best item carrier for Vayne. If you still want to run Irelia carry, you can, but it's less consistent. In this case, you add in either Riven or Shen over Caitlyn. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. It is filled with hundreds of other players who are hungry to climb. If you want to get coached by me, all the information is on the Discord as well. So take care, and see you in the next video.